I was just reaching for the salt when my phone buzzed on the table. Get up and go, don't say anything to her. My daughter Ava sat across from me, smiling like everything was normal. My stomach dropped. I didn't recognize the number. Who would send that? And why now, during our quiet dinner? I kept my face still, my hand steady, pretending I hadn't read it, but I couldn't breathe. Something was off, terribly off. And then she asked, "Mum, are you okay?" That's when I noticed her eyes. They didn't look like hers anymore. Someone was watching through them. Dinner had always been sacred between us. After everything, school events, missed calls, late meetings, I made it a point to cook at least one proper meal every weekend for just the two of us. Tonight, I'd gone all out, rosemary chicken, roasted vegetables, and her favourite red velvet cake. Ava sat across from me, humming softly to the jazz playing from the vintage record player in the corner. Candles flickered between us, throwing gold across her cheekbones. She looked happy, peaceful. "Mum, this is amazing," she said, slicing into the chicken. "You should open a restaurant." I smiled, warmed by the compliment. "Then you'd never see me. I'd be too busy feeding strangers." She laughed, rolling her eyes. "Fair enough." And for a moment, I believed we were okay. It felt like the kind of moment you'd press between the pages of a memory book, warm, undisturbed, permanent. I watched her reach for the salad bowl and thought, maybe this is it. Maybe we've made it through the worst. Then my phone buzzed. It was face down beside my glass of water, screen lighting up like a flare in the calm. I picked it up casually, thinking maybe it was my co-worker or some spam text, but it wasn't. "Get up and go. Don't say anything to her. No name, no number, just the text." My spine stiffened, fingers tightening around the phone so quickly I almost cracked the screen. I glanced at Ava. She was still eating, sipping her water, utterly calm. Or pretending to be. I forced a smile and took a slow breath. "I'll get us more ice," I said, voice even. "Okay," she chirped without looking up. In the kitchen, my hands trembled as I set the phone on the counter and stared at the message again. It didn't make sense. Who would send that? And why now? I opened the text thread, nothing else, just that one cryptic warning. I should have called someone, but who? I hadn't spoken to my sister Meredith in months. Our parents. They'd pick Meredith's side without blinking. Friends? I'd pushed them all away when Ava hit her rebellious phase 2 years ago. My pulse quickened. I had no one. Still, I checked the front camera from the doorbell app. An instinct more than a decision. That's when my heart hit the floor. Meredith's car, parked across the street. Not even trying to hide. A black SUV with a dented back bumper. Exactly the way I remembered it. She hadn't told me she was coming. We hadn't spoken since the last argument at our mother's birthday dinner when she accused me of turning Ava against her. Why was she here? I felt a shadow behind me and nearly dropped the phone. Ava leaned against the kitchen door frame, her expression unreadable. "You okay, Mum?" I shoved the phone face down onto the counter. "Yeah, just checking something from work." She nodded slowly, eyes locked onto mine. For a second, I thought she was going to say something else. But she just walked to the fridge, poured herself more juice, and walked back out. Her calmness unnerved me more than any outburst would have. My phone buzzed again. "She knows you're reading this. Don't look at her." I froze. Whoever had written this, knew I'd looked at Ava. My heart thundered. Someone was watching us. But who and how? I backed into the far end of the kitchen, staring at the ceiling, the corners, the vents. Was there a camera? A mic? Was Meredith in my house? I pulled out the drawer where I kept the emergency box cutter and slid it into my pocket. Just in case. In the dining room, Ava had resumed eating. She was scrolling her phone now, her face lit by the screen glow, laughing at something on TikTok, like nothing was wrong. But I couldn't unsee the brief flicker in her eyes. The coldness, the calculation. Was she pretending, or was I imagining things? I sat back down at the table, trying to mimic the same ease I had 10 minutes ago. Ava looked up and smiled. "Did you get the ice?" I swallowed. "No," I said. "Got distracted." "That's okay," she said, then stabbed another piece of chicken with her fork. We chewed in silence. The warmth of the candles didn't feel comforting anymore. It felt suffocating, like the light was exposing too much, not enough. I thought of Meredith again, her car, her threats. She once said, "I gave you my daughter, not the right to steal her from me." Back then, I thought it was just her being dramatic. Now, I wasn't sure. The silence of the house pressed in on me long after dinner. Ava had gone upstairs, music drifting faintly from her room. Too calm, too normal, but I couldn't sleep. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the phone, the text still there like a quiet scream I couldn't unhear. Memories drifted in, uninvited. Growing up, Meredith had been the golden child, valedictorian, varsity captain, piano prodigy, the daughter our parents bragged about in church, at dinner parties, in Christmas cards. Me? I was the messy one, the dreamer, the disappointment. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" was practically my middle name. When Meredith got pregnant at 24, our parents nearly imploded. She had just been hired at a prestigious law firm. A baby? With a man she refused to marry? Unthinkable. She hid the pregnancy for months. Then, when Ava was born, she made a decision, one that rewrote the rest of my life. "She needs stability," Meredith had said, holding Ava like she was made of glass, and I can't give it to her, not yet. I'd just finished college, jobless, living in our parents' basement, and in one conversation I went from aunt to mother. Just for a little while, Meredith promised. 17 years later, a little while had never ended. Ava became my everything, my purpose, my redemption. I took night shifts, taught myself to braid curly hair, gave up on dating, dreams, everything, because she needed me, and now, maybe, I was going to lose her. A week before the dinner, I started noticing things. Passwords didn't work. Emails marked as read when I hadn't opened them. A ring my mother had given me vanished from the jewellery box. At first, I thought I was being forgetful, overworked, distracted. But it kept happening. My laptop logged in from locations I didn't recognise, an Amazon order I never placed, a browser history wiped clean. I confronted Ava once. She laughed. "Seriously, you think I want your boring emails?" I wanted to believe her. But something didn't feel right. I waited until she left for school the next morning before stepping into her room. It felt wrong, like betrayal, but something deeper pushed me. I checked under the bed, behind her mirror, the shoeboxes in the closet, and then I found it, a small black USB tucked inside an old makeup bag. It wasn't labelled. I brought it to my laptop, closed the door, and pressed play. The screen filled with static at first, then colour. Meredith. She sat in what looked like a therapy office. neat, cold, professional. Her voice was steady. "You have to be calm when you do it," she was saying. "Don't fight her directly. That's how she wins. Make her doubt herself. Subtle shifts, missing keys, logging her out of accounts, little things, enough to make her question her mind." Off screen, someone nodded. Then came Ava's voice. "Like, pretend I don't remember stuff she tells me?" Meredith smiled. "Exactly. Gaslight her just enough to keep her unstable. Once she's labelled mentally unwell, we can challenge custody legally." My skin burned. I paused the video, hands shaking, breath gone. It was real proof. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't stress. This was a campaign. I played more. "Remember," Meredith added, voice like steel, "you deserve a life with someone who can open doors for you. Eleanor's just been keeping you in a cage." I wanted to vomit. I called Meredith straight to voicemail. Then suddenly she called back. I didn't say hello. "You evil bitch," I snapped. She laughed. "You were never supposed to find that, but maybe it's better you did." "I'm going to the police. No one will believe you, and you know it. You manipulated her. She's mine. You were just the babysitter." The line went dead. I sat, stunned, clutching the USB like it was a lifeline. But proof meant nothing if no one believed me. That evening, I didn't speak to Ava. She came home like nothing had happened, humming, smiling, telling me about school. I nodded, listened, heart racing. I needed time, a plan, but plans don't survive chaos. Later that night, I found her sitting on the floor of her room, back against the bed, knees pulled in. Her face was wet, eyes red. "Mum?" I hesitated in the doorway. "Yeah?" She looked up. "I don't know what's wrong with me," she whispered. "Sometimes I feel like I'm watching myself do things I don't want to do. I don't know why I lied to you, why I said those things. I just wanted her to love me." I swallowed. "She's your mother," Ava said, almost choking, "but you're the one who stayed." I stepped forward slowly, heartbreaking, unsure if this was truth, performance, or both. "I'm sorry," she said, sobbing now. "I'm so sorry." And then she collapsed into my arms. I didn't sleep that night. I just held Ava while she cried herself into silence, my mind spinning like a broken reel. The next morning, I called my parents. They picked up on the third ring. I didn't even say hello before launching in. "I have proof, Mom. Video proof. Meredith has been manipulating Ava for months, maybe years. She told her to gaslight me. It's all recorded." Silence on the other end. Then my father's voice. "Eleanor, not this again." "What do you mean again? You didn't even listen." "You've always been dramatic," my mother chimed in. "You were obsessed with Meredith getting more attention as a child. This is just another one of your spirals." "It's not a spiral. It's real. I have the file." My father cut me off. "Maybe you need to talk to someone, sweetheart. A professional." I hung up. Shaking, I grabbed my laptop, plugged in the USB and hit play. Nothing. The folder was empty. All the videos gone. I checked the recycle bin. Nothing. Hidden files, system logs, erased. It felt like someone had pulled the ground out from beneath me. No video, no proof, no support, and worse, no time. Later that day, I received a visit from Child Protective Services. Ava had reported emotional manipulation and coercive control. That I was unstable, paranoid, that I'd invaded her privacy, accused her of horrible things, screamed at her without warning. I couldn't breathe. They took her that night. I watched from the doorway as she packed a bag, eyes red but dry. No explanation, no goodbye. She left with the social worker without a word. It wasn't until the front door shut behind them that I screamed. Within 48 hours, I was admitted to a psychiatric observation facility on a 72-hour hold. Meredith had called in a wellness check, said I was exhibiting paranoia, disordered thinking, and potential for self-harm. I sat in a sterile white room, stripped of everything, phone, dignity, identity, alone. For the first time in years, I had no one. On the second night, a nurse handed me an envelope, no name, no return address, just a note in messy handwriting. "If you want to get everything back, meet me, M." I turned it over. A time, a location, and underneath, in different ink, M. Pamela Marcus, Meredith's ex. My breath caught. Marcus, the man she refused to talk about, Ava's father, the ghost of a chapter Meredith had buried so deep I sometimes wondered if I'd imagined him. But he was real. And now, reaching out? Why? They released me the next morning, labelling me low risk. I returned to a home that no longer felt like mine, empty, soulless. I moved through the rooms like a shadow, mail piled up. I didn't open it. Dishes went unwashed. The fridge hummed louder than my thoughts. No one called. No one asked if I was okay. And somehow the world kept turning. I sat at the kitchen table one night, staring at the photo of Ava on the fridge. Her smile, so bright, so genuine, mocked me now. I traced the edges of her face with my eyes, heart hollowed out. I had nothing left. That's when the second twist came. I found a journal in Ava's closet, not hidden, not locked, just there, as if she wanted it found. Inside were drawings, pages of confusion. Who am I? She says she's my mother. Why does Meredith hate her? Why do I feel like I'm living someone else's life? One entry chilled me to the bone. Sometimes I dream Eleanor took me from someone else. But in the dream, I don't want to go back. My hands trembled as I read. Ava didn't know. She didn't know Meredith was her biological mother. She thought Meredith was just the aunt who disapproved. Meredith had kept it hidden, deliberately, to weaponize the truth later, to reclaim Ava once I was broken and discarded. That was her plan all along. I sat in Ava's room until morning, numb, hollow, aware of one thing only. I wasn't crazy. I'd never been. The world around me was, somewhere else. Ava was living under Meredith's roof now, walking on eggshells, being reshaped, but that control couldn't last forever. Later that day, as Ava walked past Meredith's office door, she heard her voice, cold, distant, cruel. "She's not your sister," Meredith snapped on the phone. "She's not even your mother. She was a placeholder, a tool. That girl is mine, a legacy, a product, and no one's taking her away." Ava froze, and something inside her cracked. The knock came late, almost midnight. I didn't move at first. I wasn't expecting anyone. I hadn't expected anything at all in weeks, really. But something in my chest stirred, and I crossed the room barefoot, peeking through the peephole. Ava, soaked from the rain, eyes rimmed red, shoulders slumped like she was carrying more than a teenager should. I opened the door without a word. She didn't wait for an invitation. She stepped inside, trembling, then collapsed onto the couch, clutching herself like she might come apart. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. My voice barely worked. "Tell you what?" About her, that she's my real mum, that you weren't. My heart twisted. I sat beside her, careful not to touch her too soon. Because I was afraid, I said. Afraid that if I told you the truth, you'd look at me the way she wanted you to. That you'd see me as the villain, and that you'd choose her. Her lips trembled. I already did, and I was wrong. I looked at her, really looked. This girl I had raised, loved, protected. And yet she had still been taken from me, not by force, but by something colder, more invisible, manipulation. Ava pulled out her phone and tapped open a file. She said I could never see this, that it was fake. But it's not, is it? It was the birth certificate, my name listed as legal guardian, Meredith's name, biological mother, redacted in official ink. A choice made long ago, one that had never been revisited until Meredith decided it was convenient. We sat in silence for a long moment. I remember things now, Ava said, voice barely audible. Things she said when I was little, how you were just temporary, how one day she'd come back and save me. She never wanted to be a mother, I said. Not when you were born. She was building her career, and I was disposable. But she came back, Ava whispered, not to love me, to own me. She wiped her tears and straightened. We need to take her down. At first, I thought she meant it figuratively, emotionally, symbolically, but she meant it literally. Over the next 3 weeks, we worked in secret. Ava stayed with a friend, telling Meredith she was taking night classes. I filed for a temporary protective order and quietly hired a lawyer willing to work off record. We met with Marcus, the man who had once loved Meredith enough to father her child and had left fast enough to escape her orbit. He provided what I couldn't. Historical receipts, email chains, old photos of Meredith at prenatal appointments, documents she had tried to erase from every system. But it wasn't enough. Then came the micro-reveal. Ava discovered a folder buried in Meredith's work emails. Grant applications submitted to various mental health organisations, all citing Eleanor Grant, me, as an anonymous subject case in a longitudinal study about borderline personality disorder and maternal instability. She had used me for funding, for academic clout, for her own twisted research. She's not just cruel, Ava muttered, scrolling through the PDFs. She's institutionalizing your breakdown as evidence. I leaned back, dizzy. I'm a case study. She made you one. We needed more. I reached out to an ethical hacker I'd met through an online trauma survivors group, someone who specialized in data recovery. He agreed to help pro bono, intrigued by the layers of manipulation we described. Within days, we had more. Fragments of the deleted video resurfaced, phone logs between Meredith and her research associates, even GPS data showing Ava's phone at my home the night of the first CPS report, proving Meredith had lied about the incident. I bought 2 body cams, small clip-on designed to blend into buttons and bag straps. We began recording every interaction Ava had with Meredith. Each carefully scripted conversation, each backhanded compliment, each thinly veiled threat. We collected hours. We built a timeline, date-stamped and cross-referenced. Ava's school records, CPS reports, video logs, therapy records, even a few voice memos Ava had started recording once she began to doubt her own thoughts, on her therapist's suggestion. Piece by piece, we reconstructed the architecture of abuse. Still, I hesitated. "Are you sure about this?" I asked Ava one night as we packed another batch of documents into a flash drive labelled Truth Final. She looked at me, unwavering. "I have to be. For you. For me. For the kid I used to be who thought control meant love." But in the quiet of night, I sometimes wondered, was this her redemption arc or a long con? The doubt gnawed at me. Meredith had taught her well. Too well. Still, I chose trust. It was the only way forward. The trial date was set. We had one shot. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I walked the halls of my house, touching door frames, smoothing blankets, checking the locks twice. I even set the coffee to auto brew. I wanted the morning to feel normal, but nothing about this was normal. I laid out my outfit, checked the documents again, charged the camera pens, double-checked Ava's key testimony. Then, around 3:42 a.m., I heard the front door open. Not unlock, open. I froze. Called Ava. No answer. The lights flickered. And then, darkness. I turned toward the hallway and the world tilted. The floor came up fast. My last thought before everything went black wasn't fear. It was betrayal. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back rows, their cameras discreet but ready. This wasn't just a custody dispute anymore. It had become a public spectacle, a clash of narratives, the polished, celebrated attorney versus the supposedly unstable mother figure. And Meredith thrived in the spotlight. She walked into the courtroom in a navy suit, hair pinned, lips painted the same blood-red shade she'd worn to our father's retirement party. She greeted the judge by name, smiled at the gallery like she was accepting an award. Her lawyers flanked her like bodyguards. Eleanor Grant, me, was notably absent. Meredith's voice was cool as she addressed the court. Unfortunately, Eleanor has failed to appear today, likely a result of her ongoing instability. I'm prepared to move forward in her absence. She handed over documents, fabricated timelines, edited recordings, psychological evaluations conveniently tailored to paint me as delusional. The judge scanned them carefully. For a moment, it looked like she might win, until the live stream started. Every screen in the room, phones, tablets, even the projector behind the judge lit up simultaneously. The feed showed me sitting upright, clear-eyed, hair pulled back into a tight ponytail. I was wearing a slate grey blazer, my voice steady. "Good morning, Your Honour," I said to the camera. "I apologise for not being physically present. There was an attempt to prevent me from appearing today, but this story deserves to be heard by the court and the world." Gasps rippled through the room. Meredith froze. I continued, "For years I have been accused of being unstable. But the truth is, I was the target of a calculated effort to erase my role as a mother by a woman who never wanted to be one until she could weaponize it." The live stream rolled into clips. The first, Meredith coaching Ava to manipulate me, the audio recovered and cleaned by our ethical hacker. Then footage from Ava's hidden camera, Meredith's voice, sharp and surgical. "She's a nobody. You're my second chance. She was just holding your place." Then a recording of me in the psychiatric facility, reading Meredith's note aloud, laying bare the plot to steal Ava back through psychological warfare. And finally, a home video from years ago, Ava as a toddler, clinging to me, screaming when Meredith tried to take her hand. Meredith muttered, "One day she'll know who her real mother is. And by then, it'll be too late." The courtroom went dead silent. And then Ava stood. She walked to the witness stand, shoulders square, voice trembling but clear. "When I was a child," she began, "I used to wonder why my real mum didn't want me. But then I realised my real mum was there all along. She packed my lunches, sat in the front row at my recitals, stayed up with me when I was sick. She didn't give birth to me, but she gave me everything else." She turned to Meredith. "You gave me DNA. Eleanor gave me a life." Meredith lost it. She stood, slamming her hand on the table. "This is a setup, a smear campaign. You're all being manipulated." The judge banged the gavel. "Ms. Grant, sit down," Meredith screamed. "I made you. I made all of you. None of this matters." Security moved in. Her mask was gone. Her image, polished, poised, powerful, crumbled on live television. Hours later, the court ruled in my favour. Meredith was found guilty of fraud, evidence tampering and abuse of power. Ava was placed back in my custody immediately. Meredith was remanded to psychiatric evaluation and would never practice law again. Within days, every major outlet ran the story. Mother framed, Eleanor Grant's fight for truth. Justice for Eleanor, how one woman took down a legacy of control. Even my parents went on TV. "We were wrong," my mother said, wiping her eyes. "We let Meredith control more than just our family. We let her erase our other daughter. We're sorry, Eleanor, truly." I didn't cry, not then. That night, Ava sat beside me on the couch, watching the news replay the trial highlights. "I still don't know how you stayed strong through all of it," she said. "I didn't," I replied. "I broke, but I came back." She took my hand. "So did I." We watched in silence, the fire crackling in the hearth, the glow dancing on the walls. And then I turned to the camera that had been filming everything, the one we'd set up ourselves to document not just the lies, but the survival. I looked straight into the lens and said, "I'm not a victim. I'm living proof that the truth can't be twisted forever." The first time someone called me an expert, I almost laughed. I was sitting on stage beside Ava at a trauma conference in Seattle, looking out at an audience of therapists, survivors, and advocates. The moderator introduced us as the mother-daughter team who exposed one of the most sophisticated cases of familial psychological abuse in recent years. I still didn't know how to wear that title, but I knew how to tell the truth. We spoke about sister-to-sister violence, about manipulation disguised as parenting, about the silent suffering of those dismissed as overreactive, dramatic, or too emotional. I told them what no one had told me back then. Gaslighting isn't always about romantic partners. Sometimes it starts at the dinner table. Sometimes the person tearing you down shares your last name. Ava shared her part too. Her voice never shook. She looked into the crowd and said, "I used to think love meant control. But my mother, Eleanor, taught me that love means choice and safety and being allowed to remember your own story." People stood, some cried, some came up after and whispered, "Me too." It became a rhythm, city to city, story to story, truth to truth. When I signed the publishing deal for my memoir, I titled it The Real Mother. It wasn't a jab, it was a declaration, a reclamation. I wrote for the people like me, people who were made to believe their suffering wasn't real just because it was private. Meanwhile, Meredith sat in a minimum security facility upstate. No visitors, no press, no special treatment, just silence. Ava received one letter from her, still sealed. It sat on her nightstand for weeks, then months. Sometimes I'd catch her staring at it, fingers hovering just above the envelope. Once I asked, "Do you want to read it?" She shook her head. "Not yet. Maybe not ever." I never pushed. Some answers aren't worth the reopening of wounds. But the letter remained there, like a ghost of a door still cracked open. A quiet question that neither of us wanted to answer out loud. Can you ever truly sever blood? One day, perhaps, she'll read it or burn it. Either choice would be valid. 2 years after the trial, I opened the Real Mother Project, a non-profit trauma centre for survivors of familial psychological abuse. Not just mothers, daughters, sons, siblings, anyone navigating the mess of toxic kinship. We offered legal referrals, housing assistance, therapy scholarships, and most of all, a space where no one had to explain why family didn't always mean safe. Ava helped design the logo, an open hand holding a paper crane. She said it represented fragile freedom, rebirth. I liked that. At the centre's ribbon cutting, a reporter asked, "What would you say to Meredith now if you had the chance?" I paused, then answered, "Nothing. I'm not in conversation with the past. I'm building the future." That became the centre's tagline. Years of pain repackaged as purpose. On the day Ava graduated from college, the air felt unreal, too bright, too blue. She crossed the stage in a crimson gown, honor cords draped around her shoulders, her name echoing across the auditorium. Ava Eleanor Grant. Not her birth name, her chosen one. Afterward, we stood beneath a tree outside the auditorium. She looked at me, eyes shining. "Mom," she said softly, "I want it legally changed. My last name. I want to make it official." I felt tears rise, but held them back. "Ava, your name has always been Grant. Always." She smiled, pulled me into a hug. "I just want the world to know it too." That night, we sat on the balcony of our new home, a small cottage by the coast. The wind was gentle, the stars hung heavy above us. The world, for once, felt still. Until my phone buzzed, I glanced down. A new number. "You survived this one, but what if it wasn't the last?" I stared at the message. No name, no context, just a shadow. My hand tightened around the phone. I stood slowly, walked inside, locked the door behind me. Whatever was coming next, I was ready.